Hello everyone, Josh here with X's Network, bringing y'all another Outerplane video, and today we're going to be doing our breakdown, analysis, and review of the Bleed team finally. I've been teasing this video for a few days. A lot of people have been really asking for a while, like, Josh, how good is the Bleed team? We're very curious. So, a lot of you know at this point that the main reroll targets in this game are going to include a Valentine and then picking up Noah from the selective dash. The selective banner that you get at the beginning of the game, where you can just choose whatever 3 stars that they have available, and Noah's of course always the favorite choice there. But is there an alternative? Is there another team out there that you could potentially reroll for and invest into that can take you far into the game and it be well worthwhile? So that's why we went and we re-rolled time and time again, trying to get the full Bleed team, and I finally did it a couple weeks ago, and I've been building the team, doing theory crafting, exploring all the different options that I could with this team to see just how good it really was. Was it a disappointment, or did it exceed expectations? Let's talk about that in today's video. It's going to be very info heavy, so keep that in mind. Lots of discussions to be had. A little bit of gameplay will be trickled in, so don't worry, there will be a little bit there for y'all out there who want to see some visual demonstrations. But let's talk about the core components of the team. Okay, so the 3 Bleed heroes are all natural 3 stars, so that is a bit of an issue in terms of re-rolling. It will be a bit difficult. You have Beth, you have Francesca, you have Eliza, and then we have Valentine in there as well to complete the team. Now, there is some substitutes in there for Valentine. If you're not running Valentine, you can throw in some support heroes that could provide some other things for you, like a Tio to keep you topped up. You have Dolly in there as well to help with the CCing. You have Cindy in there for the accuracy, the attack up, which could help benefit the Bleed team a little bit as well. So there are some other alternatives if you don't want to run all 4 of these 3-star heroes, but you definitely want to run the core Bleed team to call it the Bleed team, and that's Eliza, Francesca, and Beth. Now, I will say this. Collectively, I feel that they're not as good as they are individually. But what does that mean? Does that mean the team is good or bad? Stay tuned. Alright, so Beth. A lot of you are going to be looking at Beth, and you're going to be wondering, how do you build Beth? What is she good for? What is her role? She is a wave clearer. This is not going to be a boss killing unit by any stretch of the imagination. She is a wave clearer. And by the way, guys, don't even worry about my gear. My gear is not fully optimal. I'm using whatever I have, trying to get some of the stats that I need out of the gear that I'm getting. You know how the drill is with gear. Gear is going to take you months and months and months to get that optimal build. So we are using what we have. But ideally for Beth, I would like to get as much penetration on her as possible with some attack and, of course, some accuracy and effectiveness. So yes, she is very stat hungry, and you will run into that issue with the Bleed team. They are very stat hungry because since they do inflict debuffs, they need effectiveness. And because Beth is an AoE cleaver, even though she has 2 skills that are single target, her main role is going to be AoE. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But because she does do a lot of AoE with debuffs, with the bleeds, she needs accuracy so you don't miss. Because if you do miss, you don't get a debuff. And Eliza will have that same issue. Francesca will not have that issue with requiring as high of accuracy because of the way her kit is designed, but we'll get to her in a moment. But yeah, so you want attack, you want accuracy, you want effectiveness, and it's more or less kind of what she needs. Oh yeah, and you want to get penetration on her through gear as well. You want to try and stack up that penetration because she has it built into her kit. And as I said, she has a single target skill 1 in an ultimate. Now the ultimate can apply penetration up, which is 30%, ignoring defense. So you want to try and get that up even further with her accessory. So you want to get penetration on her accessory. So get more penetration for her. That way when she uses her skill 2, which is her burst skill also, which is very nice, she's going to be doing a lot of AoE damage because she wants to do AoE damage. She wants to clear waves, and she wants to perform well in PvP. And the reason why I'm saying that she's an AoE cleaver, even though she has 2 single targets, is because her single target skill does not have a bleed on it. It does a little bit of, I guess you could call it true damage, where it's 3% of max health, and then on her ult, I think it goes up to like 5%, which is nice, but it's not boss killing material. Her modifiers that we can't see, obviously, because they don't have them in the game for some reason, are just not that high. Francesca is doing much better with lesser gear and at a much lower level. So clearly Francesca is going to be performing much better in single target damage and for bosses than a Beth. But Beth's skill 2, being on a very low cooldown, only a 2-turn cooldown when you have it fully skilled out, is going to be awesome for clearing waves and doing PvP. Plus, it pairs well with her exclusive equipment, which you can see down here, which we've unlocked. We have it equipped right here, where she's going to get a 70% priority boost when an enemy takes their turn, and at the end of their turn, they have a bleed still on them. So that's why I said she's going to be more of a wave clearer, because most of her damage is going to be coming from that skill 2, because it's AoE. You're going to be putting penetration on her because it's built into her kit. So she's going to be clearing waves. Plus, if there's multiple targets, she'll have multiple opportunities to get that priority to go up so she can keep jumping the line, especially when she's paired with Eliza. So again, she has 2 skills that are single target, but they're misleading because her role is really AoE. Hopefully that makes sense. So that is Beth in a nutshell. She's an AoE damage dealer. However, there is a concern that I have with Beth being AoE, because since she does only have one opportunity to do that every couple turns, that's putting her behind other strong units like Adelie down here, who's a 2-star hero, Noah, which as long as she keeps critting, which she'll be able to do because it's built into her kit, plus she also has Valentine, which a lot of you are going to reroll for anyways. You're going to have that in the team with almost 100% uptime when that's fully skilled out. So you're just going to have Noah just going AoE over and over and over and over and over again off of a basic ability. Plus her ultimate's AoE too. So you have that. You also have Vera, who if she gets a kill, which, you know, when you're facing waves, she probably will most times because she has very good damage numbers as well. She's also going to be popping out AoEs. So in terms of AoE cleave, Beth is good at it, but I wouldn't put her as a priority over a unit that you can just grab from the selective pool, which is Noah, for example. So she's already kind of in less of a priority, less in demand of Noah right off the gate just from that alone, because you know, it's unfortunate, but that's just what Beth's going to do mostly on your team. She's just going to be doing wave clearing. That's it. She's not a boss killer by any stretch of imagination, as I said. So you build her with penetration, and she does AoE damage. And since she's going to need those bleeds as well to try and just add a little bit more damage to her numbers, you're going to want some accuracy and some effectiveness. But we're going to get to bleed in a moment. We're going to circle back to bleed, because bleed is very disappointing. The actual bleed dot itself, and we'll talk about that soon. So again, Beth, good wave clearer, not great. And that's kind of the only usefulness I have for her at this time, is to clear waves and maybe to throw her in PvP if you pair her with Eliza, which we'll talk about Eliza next because of that. So Eliza, in terms of what stats she wants, obviously she wants attack, she wants speed, she wants accuracy, and she wants effectiveness. That's a lot of stats. However, I would personally recommend not building her as a damage dealer, because we're going to get to why in a moment, because the bleed dot is the key here. I would just build her with high speed, because she's tied for the fastest hero in the game alongside, I think, Stella, Sigma, and Valentine. I think at 154 at base at level 100, I think, if memory serves me correctly. So she's in that high-end threshold of base speed. So you want to build her with a lot of speed. You want to build her with a lot of accuracy, because she actually needs her bleeds to land for her kit to fully work. So you're also going to need effectiveness. So she needs effectiveness, accuracy, and speed. Those are the 3 stats that I would recommend building with Eliza. I wouldn't worry too much about attack because of that. Now, mine has a little bit higher attack than she should and way less speed because of a situation we're going to also talk about with the team later on, which is also a pretty big con with the bleed team. So again, that's kind of the gear stats that I'd be aiming for. Now, in terms of skills, her skill 1, she can inflict bleeding, which is good. Skill 2 can inflict bleeding, and skill 3. So she can inflict bleeding on all 3 skills, which is very, very important. Now, her ultimate is unconditional, which means it does not have a percentage requirement to land, which means the only thing that you need to do to get the defense down in the bleeds to land and to remove the buff, you need to have high effectiveness. Because as long as you can get above the resistance and it does not get resisted, she will always land those bleeds for 3 turns and then give you a free defense break AoE. But if the enemy is immune to bleeds for whatever reason, or they have high resistance and she does not get those bleeds to go through, then you do not get the defense break, which then severely diminishes her usability in PvP, because this is a PvP hero. 110%. Outside of PvP, she's going to be like A tier, B tier, or even lower, depending on what the content is. Inside of PvP, she's like SSS tier if we want to yank her, because she is built for PvP. Outside of it, though, again, I could do without her. I could do with other units in her place instead that are going to perform much better and give me more overall usability in my team. And that's just my honest truth. So, her skill 2 can, of course, do more bleeding, and she can also bump up priorities of your allies, which means that if you pair her up with the EE on Beth, Beth will now get 80% priority up instead of 70, which means Beth, again, is just going to continuously keep jumping the line against multiple targets, but not so much versus just single enemies like in most boss fights. So, again, Beth and Eliza go hand in hand together. They're a very good combo. But they're going to be stat hungry. They're going to need effectiveness. They're going to need accuracy. And in Beth's case, she's going to need attack, whereas in Eliza's case, she's going to need speed. So they're definitely going to need some stats there. Thankfully, at least crit chance and crit damage in at least Beth's case. And even when we talk about Francesca, that's being covered by Valentine. So that's nice. And if you do run Cindy, who gives accuracy, I believe, and attack, that'll also help with Beth as well, with a little bit of those stat-hungry needs that she has. So there are some supports that can help this team a little bit, obviously, but they're still very stat-hungry, and they still have limitations, because if you run into areas that don't allow bleeding, in Eliza's case, it really hurts her, because now she can't defense break, and that's going to be huge in PvP, but she still at least gets to remove a buff or two if you skill her up, which is going to be useful against opposing teams. Valentine, you can strip away that crit rate and crit damage, allowing the enemy's Noah to, not allowing the enemy's Noah to hit you quite as hard, because you know a lot of people are going to be running Valentine with Noah in PvP, at least for the time being. So at least she'll still have some usability, but she does lose a lot if she cannot bleed. So you want to give her those stats, and because of the way her kit is built, she's going to be more of a wave clear PvP unit as well, just like Beth. So those are those two heroes. Beth, at least I feel, has a little bit more usability outside of PvP than Eliza. Eliza's built more for PvP. Francesca, this is my favorite of the bunch. This girl here has got some swagger. This girl here has got some versatility. She can work inside and outside of a bleed team because she has such high built-in modifiers that we cannot see. You can see the visual damage though. She's hitting hard. And she's all single target. She's self-efficient because she basically does everything in her own kit that she needs by herself to perform the way she needs to perform. And even if she faces enemies that are immune to bleed, she's still going to hit them very hard because of her inherent multipliers that she has on her damage, which are very, very strong. She might be one of the strongest, if not the strongest, single target damage dealers in the game. Now, that's not counting a unit like Noah, because again, Noah's more of an AoE unit because she does do single target, but then it turns an AoE. So, what I mean by straight single target damage dealers, we're talking about a unit like Francesca. She might be one of the best, if not the best in the game. And again, she does not rely on the bleeds to do that, which is incredible. So for her, you'd build her with attack, crit chance, crit damage. That's really about it. You don't need to focus as much with accuracy because she doesn't have an AoE debuff. You don't have to focus as much with effectiveness because she doesn't rely all that much on her bleed. She doesn't have to have it to still perform well. It is nice. It's a bonus, but you don't need it, especially with her ultimate. It's a bonus. You mostly want to get as much raw damage out of her as possible. Now, thankfully, with a unit like Valentine, you don't have to focus as much on the crit chance, so you could probably focus more on crit damage and just attack. So, she's less stat hungry, in my opinion, of the three bleed heroes. So, Francesca is a very good plug-and-play character, is what I like to call these units, because you can put them in any team and they're going to perform well. And because she's also dark, she only has one weakness, and that's light. So that's good, and you're not going to run into as many light units as you will as the other colors. Plus, no gear dungeon in the game, either special gear or normal, is light or dark. So you don't have that as a problem either. So very, very good stuff all across the board for Francesca. She also looks really cool aesthetically, so she's just a beast. She's just a beast in my book. So that's how I would treat her. She's good with or without her EE as well, so that's another bonus. So if you do get a Francesca and you don't get a Beth or an Eliza, don't worry about it. Francesca is good on her own. Throw her in there with a Noah. Throw her in there with a Tio, a Dolly, a Valentine Teen. Throw her in there with a Cindy. You can throw her in there with a Naru King, a Vera. You know, just she's a plug-and-play character. She's going to go in there and be a boss killer for you, and that's really all she needs to be, and that's great. Now, in PvP, I don't necessarily think I'd put her in there as a high priority because there's other units in there that are going to perform a little bit better, especially in the speed meta we're in. But Francesca is still an incredible hero nonetheless. She's definitely my favorite of the bunch. She definitely stands out among the other three. Among the other two in my opinion. And yeah, so if I was to choose one of these three bleed heroes as my favorite, it'd be Francesca. Eliza for PvP, Beth for AoE, Francesca for just multi-purpose plug and play. So there you go. That is my breakdown analysis of those units. But now, I did mention earlier in the video, this is a big one. And this is what really, really was underwhelming about the bleed team. And why I feel, I'm going to say this now, before we even do a little bit of gameplay, just to show you what the team can do. Because the team's not terrible by any means. But what really sucks about this team, and what, in my opinion, makes it not worth the investment to build this team. Remember, I'm saying team, not individual units. Team is because the bleed dot itself is poop. It's crap. It's garbage. It's around 50%, give or take, of the base attack of your character. It does not ignore defense. And since your attack stat in this game is going to be borderline capping around 35, 4K, if you yank some of these characters to the moon a little bit with some really strong gear, you're looking at, 1,500 to 2,000 per bleed tick, give or take. And that's if you don't even account for the defense, which is also going to be mitigating the damage a little bit more than that. And that's going to be mostly your cap damage for most players out there that are at endgame. And it's not going to be easy to just sit there and build up a ton of bleed stacks. In Guild Boss, for example, the highest I've seen so far was 8 stacks of bleed. Maybe with a lot more testing, I might be able to squeeze up to 9 or 10. But even then, you're getting like 15 to 20k total damage out of all of that. All those stacks, all that hard work for that little bit of damage. Whereas a Noah or a Vera could come in, or even a Naru King if you build her to where she's just losing all her HP and just doing crazy damage numbers. Or even a Francesca, if you build her for pure raw damage, they're all going to be doing way more damage over the course of a battle than what those bleeds are actually offering you. So the bleed in this game is not very good compared to a lot of other games where the bleeds are doing like 100% plus, stacking up to 10 times with additional bonuses. We're not getting that. In those games as well, those characters are hitting 20, 30, 40, 50k attack stats. In this game, we're hitting 3,500, 4,000 tops in most cases. That is bad. And that might also be an issue for a lot of the other dots in the game too. I'm not entirely sure. I know Poison has its own mechanic, obviously. Burns actually ignore defense too. We don't have enough Poison or Burn units in the game though for proper testing. But I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, bleed is bad. It is a bad dot completely. It's very bad. It's very underwhelming. But now that we've talked about the team and I gave you kind of more or less my review and analysis of the team and if you should really invest into them, I do want to leave you guys with a little bit of a play test here, just to see what the team can do. I think I stopped at 76. Yes, I did. So let's just jump in and show you a little bit about what the team can do. Let's look here. You can check the immunities. Always do that if you want. Or you could use our chart that's on the Outerplane Master Sheet, which you can find in the description below for all the 5 and 10 level boss stages of Tower. Okay. So normally we want to go ahead, since we are facing a wave here and we don't have an opportunity to build up our chain points through waves before we got to the actual boss stage because we're on tower, we're just going to go ahead and pop this real quick, get our crit rate up, crit damage up, then we're going to do the priority down. Okay. And now we will use the skill 2 first of Francesca to try and get a bleed debuff to go off. And then we'll use her ultimate next time. That way she's getting that bonus damage. But again, she doesn't necessarily need it. And what's interesting is she's only level 83 versus my level 100 Beth. Beth also has her EE. And Beth has much better gear on. So you're going to see the numbers when you see the single targets between the two of them. And you're going to really see that Francesca's raw damage numbers are just so much better. I did not crit there, unfortunately. Still did 3,200, and we did get the bleed to go off. Now we're going to go ahead and use, as long as this doesn't get resisted, we should have bleeds and defense down. I do like Eliza's ult animation, though. It does look pretty cool. So we got the defense down, but we did not get a bleed to go off. Don't ask me. It's an unconditional ultimate, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure if it works properly or not, but that does seem to happen a lot. And I didn't catch it, but I don't know if there was any resistances that popped up or what happened there, but it does that sometimes. And I don't know if it was intentional, if it's a bug or whatnot. But if you read the skill itself, I mean, you can see here, we're not crazy. If you read it here, it's unconditional. There is no percentage to apply it. It should just happen. So we got the defense down, but that's because we already had a bleed stack on from Francesca. But none of the other enemies got bleeds, and I didn't get an additional bleed on the boss either. So nothing else got a defense down. And I don't know if we saw resistances or not. If we did, let me know in the comment section below, because I might have missed it. But again, it doesn't make any sense sometimes. But regardless, we're going to use the skill 2 now for Beth. And you're going to start noticing Beth. She's going to start getting her priority up if we can get multiple bleeds going here. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we just got bleeds on the boss. I'm not sure if the mobs are immune or what, or if we're just having terrible luck. I know in Beth's case, there is a chance that it doesn't even trigger because the percentage is only like 60% or something like that right now. So it might not even activate it at all for the mobs, but whatever. Let's go and do this. Alright, so now we're going to go and pop this. We're actually going to kill this guy. So he's going to die pretty quickly. We're not even going to be able to see the priority increase. But you can see the damage there. 15,500. Not bad at all. We're just going to go and pop this. Oh, there is 2 waves. I don't know why I thought that was the boss wave at the start of the fight. My goodness. My head is in the clouds right now. There's the boss. I think I got confused because they looked very similar. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and pop the single dual attack. So we're going to burst that. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So we are almost ready to use our chain. We got another bleed to go off with our skill 1 there with Francesca. That's very cool. Let's go ahead and pop it. Now you, in this case, you could either have the additional crit damage at the end, like so. You can get the additional crit damage up with Valentine, or you can get additional weakness gauge point removals if you put Francesca at the end. So we'll do that. We'll get the additional, because if you look here at the chain effect, after attacking, additionally reduces the weakness gauge by 2. So that's usually what I like to do, because that 16 now becomes 18 in my case. And then when you max all these out and it goes to 20, it'll go up to 22. So that's just kind of how you can do that. So there goes Francesca there at the end. Okay, we got 3 stacks of bleed going on right here. And you're going to see the... Let's slow this down so you can see the bleed ticks. So you'll see what I'm talking about, how bad they really are. I'm going to go ahead and use the ult here. And after the boss goes, you will notice that Beth does move up a little bit in the turn order. Sometimes it's enough to jump her up to the front. Sometimes not. It depends, because it is 70%, and then if you apply Eliza's passive, it becomes 80%. So it will move her up quite a bit. But again, against waves, that's when it's going to become most effective. Okay, so watch Beth now. Watch Beth on the turn meter. See how she just jumped up right past Eliza? That is her EE taking effect. Okay, so let's just go and end this fight. This is over. But yeah, you guys get to kind of see a little bit about how, you know, a little bit how the team works. It's not a terrible team. You know, it's pushed me very far. I'm like on chapter 10 of hard mode and stuff now. So it's not terrible, but again, you could do better with other units available in the game that are much easier to come by. Individually, I think Francesca is my favorite. And the bleed stack itself, it's just terrible. The bleed damage itself is just not ideal. But anyways, that's it for me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, take notifications. Let me know what y'all think about the team in the description below. I'm sorry, in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Exodus Network. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.